Alright, listen up. Things at Formula One were already filled with controversy, and we're going to take you a step further with Daniel Ricciardo. The F1 driver lost it at rogue photographers with a pretty explosive rant, to say the least, all over team radio right in the middle of the F1 practice session. And if that wasn't enough, he even dropped the F-bomb. It looks like things are pretty intense right now. First off, why was he so pissed in the first place? Australian F1 driver Daniel Ricciardo literally left fuming at rogue photographers in the Monza pit lane, right in the middle of a free practice session of the Italian Grand Prix. Plus, the 33-year-old even came so close to making contact with a photographer when returning to the pits. And he pretty much vented all of his frustration over the team radio. To quote his exact words, "These effing man, I'm happy to hit one of them. Yep, we know what you're thinking. That's some intense rage right there." Now, a slew of penalties means Ricciardo is going to start on the second row for Sunday evening's highly anticipated race, right even after finishing P8 in the qualifying session. In fact, almost half of the grid copped penalties for engine changes. And we're also talking about the reigning champion Max Verstappen. Anyway, McLaren's favorite driver duo, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, are going to start the Italian Grand Prix in third and fourth respectively. Now, to say the least, McLaren clinched an unforgettable 1-2 finish in Monza last year, with Ricciardo securing his only victory for the team. And fast forward to this weekend, the Perth driver is hoping to replicate the same performance or even do better. Following up, after a tough year with McLaren, he really needs to blow off some steam. We all know the last year with McLaren hasn't been the easiest for Ricciardo, and it looks like he might not get a seat in F1 in 2023 after all, after the Australian and the Woking-based team have now mutually decided to terminate his contract. With that said, the Australian F1 driver has been nothing less than a sensation on the grid for his impressive performance since his days in Red Bull. In fact, he won 3 races in his debut season with Red Bull, and as we saw his F1 career reach bigger heights, he even brought McLaren their first win in over a decade. Now, the Honey Badger had won the 2021 Italian Grand Prix in, let's just say, an unexpected turn of events. But at the same time, his performance at McLaren has been quite underwhelming. In fact, even his teammate Lando Norris outperformed him on many occasions. And fast forward to now, the FP session of the 2022 Italian Grand Prix, Ricciardo absolutely lost it at a photographer in the pit lane over the radio. Honestly, it sort of seems like the adrenaline of the rush hour simply got the best of Ricciardo as he made his anger known. But the F1 fans were not impressed by the comments and even bashed the 33-year-old for it. We know it was all in anger, but did he really mean what he said? Would he really have been happy to hit one of them? What's more, Ricciardo is open to a reserve role with Mercedes. Now, ever since the termination of his contract with McLaren, the burning question has been looming in the paddock. Where will he go in 2023? Well, many are expecting the Australian to head right back to his old team Alpine, which was also previously known as Renault. Others believe that he might actually just take a year off from the sport. That's right, guys, we might not see him next year. And right in the middle of all the chaos and confusion for Formula One, the teams, fans, and of course Daniel, Mercedes decided to pop up out of nowhere. It seems like there's definitely some news about him being a potential reserve driver for the team. In fact, Honey Badger is open to the opportunity, and he says that his priority right now is a race drive in Formula One. Having said that, Ricciardo claims that the truth is that he's keeping all his options out there in the open, and that's not just for the next year, but also for the near future. At the same time, he has admitted that he'd be open to taking a reserve driver role with one of the Formula One's top teams in 2023. In fact, he thinks he can get back to his winning ways even despite the chaos right now. Now, the free agent and 8-time race winner wants to do all he can to stay in F1, but his options are pretty slim. Honestly, Williams and Haas seem like his only realistic suitors. Up next, he's open to offers, but only in Formula One. Now, there's no doubt that if he wants to get out of Formula One and shift to another racing series, there will be plenty of teams to take the sensational driver in. But here's the problem, Ricciardo doesn't want to leave Formula One. Having said that, he knows he's got interested suitors for 2023, but also said he's getting September's triple header out of the way before he starts considering his next moves. Right now, there are 5 seats available on the grid for the next season, and even though his best shot seems to be with Alpine, it turns out that the team is set to take in Pierre Gasly of AlphaTauri, and they want to sign Colton Herta. As we mentioned earlier, the other options are Alfa Romeo, Haas, and Williams. With that said, when he spoke to the media at Zandvoort, Ricciardo seemed to be be more open to longer-term deals, and that was surprising considering his dismissive tone the previous weekend in Belgium. In fact, he said that he definitely has the ability to love a project, but of course there are quite a few things he needs to consider. Now, he doesn't want to be seen as stubborn or short-sighted. Instead, he's giving every option a fair shot. Not to mention, Mercedes is planning on replacing Lewis Hamilton with him. Yep, all the talks about them offering Daniel a place in the team sounds like a replacement move for Hamilton, although that's for 2024 and not directly next year. Now, the 7-time world champion is only signed up to the Silver Arrows until the end of next season, which is ironically just a few weeks before his 39th birthday, and he's made no exact public statement about him retiring other than to say that he, rather than anyone else, will get to decide when his masterpiece is completed. At the same time, Daniel's been looking for a new home in motor racing's Premier Series anyway, so a jump from reserve driver to replacing Hamilton might not be a bad option after all. Like, it's only for a season, right? In fact, they've confirmed that after he serves as a reserve driver for 2023, they have an oven-ready option for him to take over Hamilton's race seat if needed and partner up with George Russell in 2024. Honestly, Russell has been pretty impressive during his first season at Mercedes and leads Hamilton by 30 points going into this weekend's Italian Grand Prix at Monza. At the same time, he's patiently biding his time before assuming the role of the top F1 racer when Hamilton stops. At this point, it seems like Mercedes is just trying to cover off the possibility of Daniel walking away at the end of the season, and we wouldn't be surprised if that's true. Finally, Sebastian Vettel isn't too happy about Daniel's McLaren axing. Former teammate Vettel says the team clearly failed to get the best out of the Australian. In fact, after weeks of speculations and the final announcement of Piastri replacing Ricciardo, Vettel says that it's a very, very difficult situation to be in and truly believes that the Perth driver is one of the best in Formula 1. Sebastian is on his way to retirement at the end of the season, but the two F1 drivers have raced together multiple times. Clearly, he thinks that there's a lot to offer and blames the team for not being able to extract the Australian's full potential. And honestly, a lot of people in Formula 1 are going to agree with him because we've also seen what Daniel is capable of. At the same time, despite the disappointing tenure at Woking, his will to compete wasn't lost, and while he's trying to check every option out there, he's just not ready to take up any seat on the grid for the sake of staying in F1. He wants to see it from a competitive point of view and doesn't want to be the guy who accepted a seat because he didn't have any other options. Daniel Ricciardo is ready to fight, and he isn't planning on leaving F1 anytime soon. This isn't the end for him, and while he has no control over the future, one thing's for sure, he's not the kind to give up on his dreams. That's a wrap for this video. What's your take on Daniel Ricciardo's anger at the pit lane photographers? Do you think it was justified? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.